When you think of the sound of global English, what do you hear? A British accent? A New York cadence? Well, get ready to change the way you listen. Tonight, we uncover a fascinating and totally unexpected shift happening across Africa's biggest cities. From the tech hubs of Nairobi to the bustling streets of Lagos, millions of young people are ditching the traditional Western sounds and choosing a totally new voice for the 21st century. It's an accent that's clear, professional, warm, and comes from thousands of miles away. It's the Filipino way of speaking English, and it is quietly becoming the new global standard. We'll show you how social media, the rise of online work, and a simple need be understood are making the Philippines the unlikely language teacher for an entire continent. Stay with us. You won't believe how this linguistic wave started, and why it's redefining what it means to sound smart and global today. 1. The big shift, an unexpected influence. For years, when Africans thought about speaking English well, they imagined accents from the United States or the United Kingdom. But today, millions of young people across the continent are slowly changing the way they say words, use everyday phrases, and even show their emotions in English. And the source of this huge change isn't America or Britain. It's the Philippines, a country thousands of miles away in Southeast Asia. At first, this idea sounds unbelievable. How can a country so far away influence the way people speak English in Ghana, Nigeria, and South Africa? The truth is, the Filipino way of speaking has quietly become one of the most copied accents in Africa. This sudden popularity is all thanks to the internet. 2. The online spark, clear and friendly English. Over the past few years, thousands of Filipinos, teachers, online tutors, call center workers, and famous social media influencers started sharing videos where they spoke fluent, clear, and very easy-to-understand English. What Africans noticed about this accent was how soft, pleasant, and professional it sounded. In many African nations, speaking good English is a sign of being educated and intelligent. But there was always a huge problem. Whose English should people follow? The British style? The American? The local Nigerian or Kenyan version? This question caused confusion for decades. Now, for the first time, many Africans are realizing that the Filipino style of English is simply more practical for today's world. This style offered a clear, neutral way to speak without having to sound like someone from the West. 3. The work-world connection. Success in online jobs. The real liftoff for Filipino-style English in Africa began with the boom in online jobs and virtual work. Millions of young Africans started working for clients all over the world using websites like Upwork and Fiverr. They quickly saw that Filipino freelancers were incredibly successful and were dominating these online spaces, especially in customer service and teaching. When Africans worked with Filipinos in meetings, they were surprised by how easy it was to understand them. Filipinos spoke English slowly, clearly, and with great confidence, and their tone was always polite and warm. For young Africans also working with global clients, this communication style was exactly what they needed to succeed in the competitive online world. Because of this, Africans started to copy it. They began practicing Filipino pronunciation, watching Filipino video bloggers, and searching for tutorials on how to speak neutral English. For cultural ripple effects, from vlogs to classrooms, the influence quickly spread beyond the workplace. On social media sites like TikTok, African content creators started using small phrases and sentence patterns that sounded clearly Filipino. Expressions like "for me, I think," or "it's like, became common. People heard these phrases so often in Filipino vlogs and online tutorials that they started using them without even thinking about it. In professional training centers across Africa, especially in call centers in Kenya and Ghana, many training sessions now teach neutral English communication, which is basically another name for Filipino style. Trainers realized that clients in North America and Europe preferred accents that were easy to understand, polite, and not too strong. The Filipino way was perfect for this goal. Some African companies even brought in Filipino experts to train their workers on these important communication and soft skills. This change is even showing up in schools. Some training programs are now using the voices of Filipino teachers for listening parts of English exams instead of only British or American voices. The question remains, why does this style have such an appealing and powerful effect? Join us after the break as we explore the deeper reasons why Filipinos speak English this way and how it perfectly matches the natural speaking style of many Africans. 5. The secret power, how Filipino English was forged. Welcome back. To understand why the Filipino style of speaking English is so powerful and appealing, we need to look at how Filipinos learn the language themselves. The secret lies in a history that stretches back over 100 years. Unlike many other nations where English was introduced, the Philippines blended English naturally with its local languages. The outcome of this long process is a distinctive natural rhythm, an English that is not too fast, not too formal, and wonderfully emotionally expressive. Filipinos intentionally use changes in their voice pitch, known as intonation, to make sure they sound friendly and welcoming. This warm tone instantly makes listeners feel comfortable and respected. For Africans, who are often naturally expressive and emotional speakers themselves, this style was a perfect fit. It gave them a way to sound internationally clear without having to sacrifice their own expressive identity or feel like they were pretending to be British or American. 6. Shared aspirations, the path to global success. This trend is not just about accents. It's about economic opportunity and shared vision. Africans saw how Filipinos used their excellent English skills to build massive industries like global call centers, online teaching, and nursing. They recognized that this mastery of clear communication was the bridge to the world and a path to financial success. This deeper story is about two global regions, Southeast Asia and Africa, finding common ground. Both Filipinos and Africans understand what it means to be underestimated by Western nations. Now, by embracing a professional and adaptable Filipino way of speaking, Africans are showing the world they can adapt, learn, and lead in their own unique way. Africans are winning more international jobs and gaining respect for their ability to communicate globally and clearly. They realized they didn't need to copy Westerners to sound legitimate. They just needed to master the art of effective communication, which Filipinos had already done perfectly. 7. The emotional and cultural fit. Speaking with respect. There is an important emotional and cultural element driving this huge language shift. Filipino English often sounds cheerful, polite, and genuinely uplifting. This emotional warmth has inspired many Africans to change not only how they speak, but also how they think about the act of communicating. The Filipino speaking style, which naturally includes phrases of respect and courtesy, aligns perfectly with traditional African cultural values. As more Africans learn this style, they're also learning how to speak with greater empathy and respect. Even government agencies in some African countries have noticed this powerful trend. They are now updating their training programs for tourism officers and customer service workers, encouraging the use of these neutral and friendly accents for better interactions with foreigners. In some of these government programs, Filipino trainers are featured prominently as examples of world-class communication. This shows that the influence has reached the very top levels of public service. This language revolution shows that the global community no longer listens only to one accent. It listens to those who speak with 8. From humor to hero, the shift in African media. The ultimate sign of how widespread this change has become is seen in African entertainment. What started as humor has quickly turned into respect and admiration. African comedians and popular YouTubers are now making jokes about speaking like a Filipino, with some even creating full comedy skits that use distinct Filipino phrases to entertain their audiences. This joking around has cemented the idea that the Filipino accent is now a symbol of global professionalism. It's no longer strange or uncommon to hear a young Ghanaian or Tanzanian person using Filipino-style English in everyday talk. It is becoming the new normal, and the younger generation is the engine driving this change. They grew up watching Filipino content creators and teachers online, mixing the style naturally into their own speech. This generation sees Filipino English not as a copycat effort, but as a new global English, a language that truly belongs to everyone who uses it to connect, share, and grow. 9. A new global South leadership. The future of English. This movement carries a huge prediction for the future. Experts believe that in the next decade, African English will become more neutral, friendly, and melodic, strongly resembling Filipino English today. This is expected to unlock new doors for African professionals, teachers, and social media influencers all over the world. More importantly, this trend is a powerful idea that the Global South, regions outside of Western Europe and North America, is now actively shaping the future of the English language. It proves to the world that clarity, confidence, and kindness are far more important than sounding like a native speaker from the West. For decades, African English speakers were often mocked or judged for their strong local accents, even when their grammar was perfect. The Filipino model provided a viable solution, a path where Africans could sound global but remain authentic. They realized they didn't have to sound Western to be considered correct. 10. A quiet, powerful wave, redefining communication. This Filipino English wave is tied to one simple, powerful truth. People want to be understood. The emotional tone of Filipino English is a huge factor. It's often cheerful, polite, and uplifting. This warmth has inspired Africans to think differently about communication, prioritizing empathy and respect. Even the simple inclusion of respectful phrases aligns perfectly with African values. The Filipino way of speaking English has crossed oceans and changed voices, showing the world that effective English communication is not about imitation. It's about making a connection. Millions across Africa are not just copying an accent. They are actively redefining English for a new generation. In this remarkable movement, both Africans and Filipinos are proving something profound, that English no longer belongs to the West. It belongs to the world that uses it. But what does this mean for the traditional English education systems in Africa? Will schools completely abandon the British curriculum? And what happens when the next global accent arrives to challenge the Filipino wave? That future is already being written. Like, share, and subscribe for more.